What if I told you that the next 180 days matter more than the last 10 years of your life? Not because time suddenly speeds up, but because decisions do. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they keep postponing the moment that changes everything. Today, ISN, just another day. It's a checkpoint. And what you choose to do after this moment will quietly shape the next decade of your life, whether you're paying attention or not. Ladies and gentlemen, most people think life changes slowly. That's a lie. Life doesn't change in decades. Life changes in decisions. And sometimes one decision opens a window so powerful that what you do in 180 days can echo for the next 10 years. Let me tell you something most people never realize. Time is not your greatest asset. Focus is. You can waste 10 years being busy, or you can compress 10 years of growth into 6 months of disciplined execution. The difference is not talent. It's not luck. It's not access. It's decision-making under pressure. See, motivation is unreliable. Motivation shows up when it feels like it. But decisions stay even when feelings leave. When you decide to wake up early, even when you don't feel like it. When you decide to study, when others scroll, when you decide to build, while others wait. Those decisions don't look dramatic in the moment, but they compound quietly, and then suddenly, here's the truth. Your results will never rise above your identity. If you see yourself as average, your actions will match that belief. But in the next 180 days, you don't need to change everything. You need to change who you believe you are. Act like the person your future requires. Work like the person your goals demand. Think like the person your destiny depends on. Consistency will beat intensity every time. Anybody can go hard for a week. Few can go steady for 6 months, but steady wins. 1 extra hour a day, 1 disciplined habit, 1 uncomfortable decision repeated daily. That's not pressure, that's power. And understand this, the people who dominate the next decade are not the most gifted. They're the ones willing to delay gratification. They sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term control. They say no to distractions so they can say yes to freedom. Because the greatest cost in life is not failure. The greatest cost is inaction. 6 months from now, you'll be in one of 2 places. Grateful you started or frustrated you didn't. The clock is moving either way. So decide today, because what you do in the next 180 days will decide who you are for the next 10 years. And the question is not, can you do it? The question is, will you decide to? Most people misunderstand time. They think success is about how long something takes. But in reality, success is about how focused you become within a short period. This is where the idea of time compression comes in. Time compression means doing in a few months what most people stretch across years, not because you are rushing, but because you are intentional. When effort is scattered, time expands. When effort is concentrated, time collapses. 2 people can live the same 5 years, but one makes progress that looks like 50, while the other stays in the same place. The difference is not intelligence, background, or luck. The difference is focus applied without interruption. Most people live in dilution. Their energy is divided across distractions, opinions, comfort, entertainment, and fear. When your energy is diluted, progress becomes slow and almost invisible. But when you compress your focus, every action carries more weight. 1 hour of deeply focused work beats 8 hours of distracted effort. 1 clear decision beats months of hesitation. Time compression is not about doing more things. It's about doing fewer things with greater precision and commitment. It's about removing everything that doesn't directly move you forward and giving full attention to what does. Think about pressure. Pressure doesn't destroy diamonds, it creates them. When you put a deadline on yourself and refuse to negotiate with distractions, pressure begins to work for you. Your mind becomes sharper. Your priorities become clearer. Your excuses become louder, but weaker. In a compressed season, you stop asking, how do I feel today? And start asking, what must be done today? That shift alone can save you years. Comfort stretches time. Commitment compresses it. Time compression also changes how you see failure. When you're fully focused, failure is no longer personal. It's informational. You adjust faster. You learn quicker. You don't sit in regret because the window is too important to waste. Momentum builds rapidly because action feeds clarity, and clarity fuels better action. This is why some people experience massive breakthroughs in short periods while others spend decades preparing. Preparation without execution is just disguised fear. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't need more time. They need more courage. They need the courage to say no to what feels good now so they can say yes to what pays later. Time compression requires sacrifice, but sacrifice is simply trading something of lesser value for something of greater value. When you understand this, urgency stops feeling stressful and starts feeling empowering. You realize that 6 disciplined months can erase years of stagnation. In a compressed season, identity begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as someone trying, you see yourself as someone doing. That identity change accelerates everything. Your standards rise, your tolerance for excuses drops, your environment starts to change because you can no longer coexist with habits that slow you down. This is why time compression is so powerful. It doesn't just change results, it changes who you become. The tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that most people never enter a season intense enough to reveal their true potential. They stay in neutral effort, hoping time will reward them. But time doesn't reward intention. Time rewards focus. And when focus is compressed, results multiply. What looks like overnight success is usually just time compression done in private. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for motivation, inspiration, confidence, or the perfect moment. But motivation is emotional, and emotions are unstable. They rise and fall with sleep, mood, circumstances, and outside validation. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be inconsistent. This is why decision is more powerful than motivation. A decision does not require agreement from your emotions. A decision operates even when motivation is absent. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this today? Decision says, this is what I do regardless. When you decide, you remove debate. Debate is what drains energy. Every time you argue with yourself, you lose momentum. Decision eliminates negotiation. You no longer wake up asking whether you will show up. You wake up knowing you must. That clarity alone saves mental energy that most people waste daily. Highly effective people are not more motivated. They are more decided. Motivation is reactive. It responds to success, praise, and comfort. Decision is proactive. It moves before results appear. Motivation waits for evidence. Decision creates evidence. This is why relying on motivation keeps people stuck at the starting line. The early stages of growth rarely feel exciting. They feel lonely, repetitive, and uncomfortable. Motivation disappears in those moments, but decision remains. A decision also creates structure. Once you decide, your behavior begins to organize itself around that choice. Your schedule changes, your habits align, your environment adjusts. People think discipline is something you force, but discipline is often just the natural outcome of a clear decision. When the decision is weak, discipline feels painful. When the decision is strong, discipline feels obvious. There is also power in public and private commitment. The moment you decide internally, something shifts in how you carry yourself. Your tone changes, your posture changes, your tolerance for excuses drops. You stop explaining and start executing. Decision gives you authority over your own life. Without it, you're constantly waiting for approval, for timing, for conditions to improve. Decision removes waiting from the equation. Another reason decision outperforms motivation is because decision reshapes identity. When you repeatedly act based on decision, you stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That identity shift is critical. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. Decisions set standards. Motivati on just creates moments. The hardest part of decision is that it exposes responsibility. Once you decide, you can no longer blame circumstances, people, or luck. That's uncomfortable, which is why many avoid it. But responsibility is also where power lives. The moment you accept responsibility, you regain control. Decision is the act of taking control back. In the long run, success is not built on emotional highs. It is built on repeated decisions made on ordinary days. Days when nothing exciting happens, days when no one is watching, days when quitting would be easier. Those days reveal the difference between people who move forward and people who stay the same. Motivation might get you started once. Decision is what carries you through. And the people who win are not the ones who feel the best. They are the ones who decided and never revisited the choice. Most people chase outcomes first. They want the money, the recognition, the confidence, the success, and they believe that once they get those things, they will finally become disciplined, focused, and consistent. But life works in the opposite direction. You do not become successful and then change who you are. You change who you are and success follows. Identity always comes before outcomes. Every action you take is a vote for the person you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you will unconsciously act in ways that confirm that belief. If you see yourself as disciplined, your behavior will begin to align with that identity even when it's uncomfortable. This is why two people can have the same goal, the same opportunity, and the same resources, yet produce completely different results. Their identities are different, and identity drives behavior. When identity is unclear, effort becomes exhausting. You feel like you are forcing yourself to do things that don't feel natural. But when identity is clear, effort feels aligned. You're no longer asking, can I do this? You're asking, is this who I am? That single shift changes everything. People who succeed long-term don't rely on willpower. They rely on alignment between who they believe they are and how they act. This is why short-term motivation fails so many people. Motivation tries to push behavior without changing identity. It creates temporary action, but no lasting transformation. Identity, on the other hand, rewires how you think, choose, and respond. When your identity changes, consistency becomes automatic. You don't have to convince yourself to show up. Showing up is simply what someone like you does in a focused season of growth. The most important question is not what do I want, but who must I become? Because outcomes are delayed, but identity shifts immediately. The moment you decide, I am the type of person who keeps promises to myself, your standards rise. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop tolerating habits that contradict who you say you are. Your environment begins to change because your identity no longer fits certain behaviors, people, or patterns. Identity also determines how you handle failure. When outcomes are your focus, failure feels personal and discouraging. But when identity is your focus, failure becomes feedback. You don't quit because a result didn't show up yet. You adjust because quitting would violate who you've decided to be. That's why identity-based growth is resilient. It doesn't collapse under pressure. Most people underestimate how quickly identity can change. It doesn't require years. It requires decision followed by consistent action. Each disciplined choice reinforces the new identity. Each time you do the hard thing when no one is watching, you strengthen the belief that you are capable, reliable, and in control. Over time, outcomes have no choice but to catch up. The real transformation in the next 180 days won't be visible at first. It will happen internally. Your self-image will sharpen. Your standards will rise. Your tolerance for mediocrity will disappear. And when that happens, the results people admire will look inevitable. Outcomes are the echo. Identity is the voice. Change the voice and the echo will follow. Most people believe success comes from intense effort. They think it's about going all in, pushing hard, and giving everything they have in short bursts. And intensity does have its place. It can create momentum, excitement, and a strong start. But intensity without consistency fades. Consistency on the other hand, builds. Over time, consistency always outperforms intensity because success is not created in moments of explosion, it's created in seasons of repetition. Anyone can be intense when motivation is high. Anyone can work late for a week, wake up early for a few days, or commit fully when the pressure is on. But intensity is emotional. It depends on adrenaline, urgency, or inspiration. When those feelings disappear, so does the effort. Consistency doesn't depend on how you feel. It depends on what you've decided. That's why consistent people keep moving forward when others stop. Consistency compounds quietly. The results don't show immediately, which is why most people quit too early. They mistake the absence of visible progress for failure. But growth is happening below the surface. Skills are sharpening, habits are forming, confidence is building. Consistency is invisible before it becomes undeniable. Intensity looks impressive at the beginning. Consistency looks boring until it wins. Small actions repeated daily have more power than massive actions done occasionally. One page read every day turns into books finished. 1 hour practice daily turns into mastery. One disciplined choice each day turns into a completely different life over time. The math is simple, but the discipline is not. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in 6 months of consistency. Consistency also builds trust, especially with yourself. Very time you keep a small promise, your self-respect grows. Every time you break one, it weakens. Intense effort followed by long gaps trains your mind to doubt you. Consistent effort trains your mind to trust you. That trust is critical because confidence is not built by thinking positive thoughts. It's built by proof. Consistency provides that proof. There's also a psychological advantage to consistency. When your actions are small and repeatable, resistance decreases. You don't have to overcome the mental weight of starting from zero every time. You build rhythm, you build systems, you build momentum that doesn't rely on willpower. Consistency turns discipline into routine, and routine turns effort into identity. Intensity often leads to burnout. People push too hard, too fast, and then crash. Consistency protects you from that. It allows progress without self-destruction. It respects the reality that growth is a marathon, not a sprint. The people who last are not the ones who sprint the hardest. They are the ones who keep moving when no one is cheering. Over time, consistency creates something intensity never can: reliability. Others can count on you. Opportunities find you. Results stack. And one day, people will call you lucky, not realizing they're looking at the outcome of hundreds of ordinary days done right. Consistency doesn't feel powerful in the moment, but it creates power over time. And in the end, the person who keeps showing up will always outperform the person who only shows up when it feels exciting. Most people are controlled by the need for immediate comfort. They choose what feels good now over what pays later. They chase quick rewards, easy wins, and instant validation, not realizing that every time they do, they trade long-term power for short-term pleasure. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist what is immediately satisfying in order to build something far more valuable in the future. And that ability is what creates dominance. Delayed gratification is not about suffering for the sake of suffering. It is about understanding value. It is recognizing that some rewards grow with time, effort, and patience, and that accessing them early weakens their impact. The people who dominate in life, business, and leadership are not the most talented. They are the ones who can wait. They can endure boredom. They can tolerate discomfort. They can say no when everyone else is saying yes. Every major advantage in life is built in seasons where the reward is invisible. While others are spending, you are investing. While others are relaxing, you are preparing. While others are chasing applause, you are building skill. This doesn't look impressive in the moment. In fact, it often looks like you're behind. But delayed gratification flips the timeline. You struggle early so you can relax later, while others relax early and struggle later. The ability to delay gratification gives you leverage. It allows you to make decisions from a place of strength instead of desperation. When you don't need immediate results, you can play the long game. You can choose quality over speed. You can walk away from bad opportunities. You can negotiate from confidence instead of need. This is how dominance is built, not through force, but through patience and control. Delayed gratification also sharpens discipline. When you repeatedly choose the harder option, your self-control strengthens. You stop being ruled by impulses. You stop needing constant stimulation. Your focus deepens, and focus is rare. In a world addicted to distraction, the ability to stay committed to something long after the excitement fades is a competitive advantage. Most people quit when the dopamine disappears. Those who delay gratification stay when it gets quiet. There is also a psychological shift that happens. When you consistently delay gratification, you begin to trust yourself. You prove that you can do hard things. That proof builds confidence that no external validation can replace. You start operating from identity, not emotion. You don't ask, what do I feel like doing? You ask, what serves my future? That mindset alone separates leaders from followers. Dominance is not about overpowering others. It's about mastering yourself. Anyone can give in to temptation. Few can resist it consistently, and that resistance compounds. Over months and years, the gap between those who delay gratification and those who don't becomes massive. Skills compound, wealth compounds, respect compounds, freedom compounds. In the end, delayed gratification is not deprivation, it's strategy. It's choosing to plant seeds instead of eating them. It's understanding that comfort is a poor trade for control. The people who win are not the ones who take everything now, but the ones who are willing to wait for more later. Those who master delayed gratification don't just succeed, they dominate quietly, steadily, and permanently. Most people are afraid of failure, but failure is not the greatest threat to a meaningful life. The real danger is inaction. Inaction is quiet, comfortable, and deceptive. It doesn't announce itself as a mistake. It disguises itself as patience, caution, waiting for the right time. But while you wait, time keeps moving, and opportunities don't pause out of respect for your hesitation. The cost of inaction is paid slowly, but it's always paid in full. Inaction doesn't hurt all at once. It hurts in small, almost unnoticeable ways. A goal you don't start today becomes harder to start tomorrow. A skill you don't practice begins to fade. Confidence erodes when you repeatedly ignore your own potential. You may not feel pain immediately, but over time you begin to feel stuck. And being stuck is not a location. It's a condition of the mind created by delayed decisions. What makes inaction so dangerous is that it feels safe. There is no risk of embarrassment, no chance of rejection, no immediate discomfort. But safety has a hidden price. Every day you choose comfort over growth, you teach yourself that fear is in control. And whatever controls you, owns you. Inaction slowly hands over authority of your life to circumstances, opinions, and habits you never consciously chose. The cost of inaction also shows up as regret. Regret is not caused by what you tried and failed at. It's caused by what you never tried at all. People rarely regret effort. They regret silence, delay, and the moments they talk themselves out of becoming more. Regret compounds just like action does, except instead of building momentum, it builds weight. It becomes heavier with time. Inaction steals clarity. Action creates feedback. When you move, you learn. When you stay still, confusion grows. Many people say they're waiting for clarity before acting, but clarity comes from action, not thought. Inaction keeps you trapped in overthinking, analyzing the same problems from the same angle, hoping for a different answer. That loop drains energy and confidence. There is also an identity cost to inaction. Every time you don't follow through, you send yourself a message that your word does matter. Over time, that damages self-trust. And without self-trust, discipline becomes nearly impossible. You start lowering your expectations, not because your potential shrank, but because your belief in yourself did. This is one of the most expensive prices of all. The tragedy of inaction is that it often looks responsible. People call it being realistic, cautious, or patient. But patience without preparation is procrastination. Caution without movement is fear in disguise. Meanwhile, life keeps presenting moments that require courage, and those moments don't wait forever. Miss enough of them, and eventually they stop coming. Action carries risk, but inaction guarantees loss. Skills unused decline. Opportunities ignored move to someone else. Time passes whether you participate or not. And one day, the gap between where you are and where you could have been feels overwhelming. Not because you failed, but because you never started. The cost of inaction is not just a missed opportunity, it is the slow erosion of confidence, clarity, and control. And the most expensive thing you can do with your potential is leave it unused. As we come to the end, understand this clearly. The next 180 days are not ordinary time, they are a crossroad. Every principle we've talked about points to one truth. Your future is not decided by luck, talent, or circumstances. It is decided by focus, by decisions made without negotiation, by identity shaped through consistent action, by the willingness to delay comfort, and by the courage to move instead of waiting. You don't need to see the entire road. You only need to take responsibility for the next step. 6 months from now, the world will not ask you what you intended to do. It will only reflect what you did. So decide today who you are becoming. Decide what standards you will live by. Decide that inaction is no longer an option. Because the truth is simple. The future you want is already available. It is just reserved for the version of you who is willing to act. And if you use the next 180 days with purpose, discipline, and courage, you won't just change your results. You'll change the direction of your life for the next 10 years.